You're listening to the Lights Out F1 podcast, episode number 22 from the USA Grand Prix, titled Champion of the World. Tonight, first up in the 5 Lights On, 5 Lights Out, we will go over the 5 biggest talking points of the weekend, which also includes the 2021 regs, yay or nay, from us here at Lights Out F1, and also Lewis, 6-time world champion. Where does he go from here? We discuss. Next on to the checkered flag section, where we will talk about drivers being confirmed for 2020 and maybe some drivers swapping jobs coming up later on in the year. And then it'll be on to the S3 awards, with the all-important awards we will be handing out at the end of the season. Pointy end now. Points are really starting to matter now. Rookie watch after that. Podium predictions from this week. And on to next at Brazil Fantasy League. And then we'll finish it off with all the sim racing and esports news. And a good wrap-up of the FNL1eSports Formula 1 and Formula 2 races you missed. Plus, Codemasters were busted. What was it we caught them out on? We will discuss all of that and more in tonight's episode. But here it is, Champion of the World, Lewis Hamilton. This was the message he received after crossing the finish line. Enjoy.
Get in there, Lewis. What a drive, mate. That is it. Champion of the world. Did it in style, mate. You did that in style.
Still we rise, guys. Still we rise. What an incredible weekend. Thank you so much, guys, for today. And to everyone that came out. I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, beautiful work today, Lewis. Real good effort there.
Woo!
Hello, welcome everybody to the Lights Out F1 podcast, episode number 22, where we visited the USA this week for the Formula 1 Grand Prix out there at Texas. But as always, I've got Aussie with me, and I didn't think it was the most exciting race this week. What about you?
G'day, Josh. Yes, it was a bit of a, as I say, a fizzer. It did fizzle out a bit.
Yeah, it seemed to be a lot to do with the tyres this week, more than anything.
Look, yes and no. Like, you know, we had a bit of convergence of strategies happening. So, but I know where you're coming from and saying that, you know me, I find it very hard to call an F1 race boring.
Yeah.
But there really wasn't much action going on, was there?
No, we had the lap 1 incident with Albon, then you had Norris making a overtake of his, what would you call it, his career, I guess. He was looking a bit feisty at the start, which was good. And Bottas out driving Lewis at Coda, which it's Lewis's track, we all know that. So things happen, but yeah, I just don't think it didn't really translate to a good race to watch necessarily.
Well, look, we didn't discuss this, but you gave the ratings out for the Grand Prix last time at Mexico. So what would you give Coda?
Out of 5?
Out of 10.
Oh, out of 10. I'd have to give it a 5 out of 10.
So I'd still go probably 6.5.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the worst race in the world. Things happened. There was definitely strategy, but yeah, out of 10, out of 5, halfway. I don't know.
Well, I couldn't say I didn't enjoy it.
I couldn't get into it. I don't know what it was. I was honestly bored.
Wow. Okay.
When I got probably, where did we get, like lap 26 or so, and I just felt like it was drag. I remember looking up and like, come on, just be over. I was kind of done with it. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that I knew Lewis was just going to win from here on in. There was no sort of surprise finish that could happen that could possibly make it a different world champion at that moment in time. But 4 points in a Mercedes, that's an easy bloody mission to be given.
Well, let's get into our lights on, lights out, 5 lights on, 5 lights out segment, starting off with the number 1 light of the weekend, and let's see if I can not pump you up a little bit about this race. With the biggest thing that happened, obviously, with Lewis being crowned 6-time world champion, as his engineer put it, and the title of our show this week. champion of the world.
You said it. You said it. I mean, he got to do the burnouts. The crowd was happy. I don't know. That's good on him. I mean that's 6 now. He's won championship closer to matching Michael Schumacher's record. So that's actually a really big achievement. But I don't know why.
I found it interesting earlier when you said that once you knew that Lewis was going to get his 4 points, that kind of sucked the excitement out, so to speak.
I don't know if that was the reason, but I'm just trying to. I can't figure it out. I usually enjoy even the more, conservative Formula 1 races, but this one I just didn't really get into. Couldn't get it. I just couldn't. I don't know. I just didn't like it.
I mean, for me personally, it was just never in doubt. I remember very early on in our podcasting career, I said to you in the lead up to the Monaco Grand Prix, I said, if Lewis wins this race, he wins the championship. And lo and behold, it's exactly how it panned out. So
you're
for
right.
me, I'm not saying I was Nostradamus and I called it then, but I did. But I'm just saying that, pretty much since the summer break, it really hasn't been in any doubt.
Oh, no, it hasn't been in doubt, but, there's always the possibility of maybe a crash here or a DNF there that could, close the championship order a little bit. But, I guess you're sort of always hanging. I'm always hanging for things like that sometimes.
Well, the real question now is, where does he go? What number does he stop at? I mean, he's that's 6 in a row, not 6 in a row. Sorry, that's 6 championships now. He's the second most winningest Formula 1 driver, behind Schumacher, who's got 7, as you just mentioned earlier. Love him or hate him, you have to acknowledge it. You got to congratulate him. He's done what he has to do. I mean, I actually find it not surprising, but I find it intriguing with some of these sports people in general, not just Lewis, but people who are at the prime like this, who constantly find the motivation to come and do it again. Like, I remember wondering when Schumacher was just winning title after title, and I think about it when Federer's there, winning every time he goes out there. I mean, you think about these guys, even Tiger Woods, when he's up at the top there winning, in those days. But how do they constantly find this motivation? I find that part of the psyche really intriguing. I mean, we know that by now it's not about money.
Not anymore, no.
Definitely not.
It would have been in the start a little bit with McLaren and starting there and whatever, but six championships in, money's not an issue now. Not at all.
Definitely not. So it's just, you just got to have that drive. And I mean, it's been doing my head in this week with all the Lewis talk, but every time Rosberg's name gets mentioned, all the people, all the handboy fanboys going on about how he ran away and he didn't come back to defend his title. And I find myself, having to comment sometimes. Most often I try not to, but hey man, he was happy winning one. He did what he had to do, and he's admitted himself he gave it his absolute all for that 1 year. And sure, Lewis had retirements, whatever, and it's always the argument that Rosberg got that title gifted to him. But all that aside, he's obviously a person who didn't need 2 or 3 championships or 5 or 6. He was happy to win one and move on with his life. Leave that part of his life behind once he achieved what he wanted to achieve. And now he's moved on with his family, and he's got kids, he's got a wife.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is everyone gets enjoyment and motivation out of life in their own way. I just hate all these Rosberg disses out there just for the sake of it.
I think I dissed him originally. I was like, quit while you're ahead, mate, and sort of, whatever. But after hearing how hard it was that year with Lewis and just the mental games and just how he would have been feeling, just mentally, that would have been exhausting, let alone having to prove himself every week after week, competing against probably one of the best drivers of the era. I mean, if I had
beating him,
and if I had won the world championship, and because I can't imagine at the end of that year he would have been very, very optimistic of staying within F1, because I don't think he might have been getting any enjoyment out of it at that point.
I think with Rosberg retiring, I would actually think to a certain extent he probably robbed Lewis of a little bit of the enjoyment as well, because
for sure, but
they were tooth and nail for 2-3 years in a row. Like, there was just,
it was Coda where the hat throwing incident happened, wasn't it? Was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this is Lewis's track. He's won here 6 times. Now he's won his 6th World Championship here at Coda.
Yeah.
It was ironic that Bottas actually owned him all weekend at Lewis's track, but I'm sure Lewis, in his own mind, just knew what he had to do. What was it? He only needed to finish 8th, or
he needed 4 points. That's all he needed.
That's all he needed. Yeah. So he did what he had to do. But so, does he get 7 next year?
I don't think he's leaving anytime soon. And
no, he's not leaving. But
2020, probably his last, like, sort of what would you call it? Almost guaranteed chance of winning one. Because come 2021, it's a big unknown now. So yeah, I reckon he'll have to do it in 2020. Otherwise, who knows what 2021 brings?
Because I do find it interesting. I mean, now we're all banking on Ferrari, obviously turning up next year finally and doing something. But they're probably more likely to just do Ferrari and just hand another one to Lewis and Merck. And then I wonder, with the 2021 regs, does the same thing that happened with the hybrid era happen again, and Merck just is miles ahead of everyone with the big reg changes, and does Lewis win 10 titles before he retires?
Well, I mean, we'll go into a little bit more detail later, but it could even be another team. It might not necessarily be Mercedes to dominate in the new era. It could be Renault. It could be McLaren even.
For sure, we all hope that's the case. But I'm just saying. I mean, Mercedes have got the writing on the wall, so to speak. They've proved it with the hybrid era, with the changes there, and how they were just way ahead of everyone else. And
yep. Well, I'm pretty sure they were.
Them being ahead also gives them the leg up by that extra time in preparation. They have all the time for that upcoming year. They've always got longer than everyone else, and in this particular case, they've got an army compared to a lot of the teams already preparing for 2021.
Yeah, well, you got to remember there's we might as well talk about it now. The 2021 regs, which were announced. They were announced at Coda, which sort of overshadowed this whole weekend, don't you think? Because they were announced on the Friday.
Well, they delayed it, and then that was the final day. That when I actually personally thought maybe there was going to be another delay there, but no, they hit us with the rules.
But what I'm trying to say is, with the money thing, because they got such a big team at Mercedes, because there's going to be a cap of, is it 175 million or something like that? Something like that. I mean, then they're not going to be able to have such a big crew now, because they need to pay salaries and whatever. But who knows? They could just have them working outside of Formula One, and then just somehow it ends up on the F1's door, development team's door or something. But yeah, I guess 2021 regs are supposed to sort of equalise the field a little bit, not just on track but off track as well.
I hear what you're saying there, but then what you got to remember is that these are the 2021 regs, so we still got next year to go through. So a team like a big, powerful conglomerate like Mercedes, what they are able to do, which a lot of the minor teams aren't, is they can front end load it and just get it all in place next year, ready for 2021, where other teams may not be able to because they just don't have the manpower or the money.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see exactly
what
you're saying.
So then they hit the ground with a massive leg up on everyone else.
Yeah. But what's interesting is sort of with the way the teams can sort of interpret and their designs. Like, they're not all forced down the one design route with a wing this way or a side. Well, there's no side pods, but the floor this way or fins here or there. There's sort of a little bit of wiggle room for them to engineer around, which is a good thing.
I guess even if you and I looked at it and we thought there is no wriggle room, I'm sure the engineers in these teams would find 100 wriggle rooms. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Innovative, yeah. What did you think of the looks of the cars?
I like it. And a lot of people out there didn't, and I couldn't really understand their thought process on that one. I don't know. What did you think?
I found that surprising too, because as you know, I put a post out on our Lights Out F1 page and to the FNL1 page, and I got quite a few responses back, and I was surprised with the division where just some people were saying they look ugly, and then others were saying they look sexy as.
Yeah, I thought they kind of
I think they look sleek and mean.
Yeah.
I think they look modern. I like how the halo is a lot more integrated into the car now. Like, it's got
that's
that leaned back look to it.
That's a big plus. Big plus.
I think the lines of the car just looks a lot cleaner. If these renders are what we get, I mean, just judging by what we've seen, what they've put out, it just seems like it flows a lot nicer to my eye.
No, I thought it looked sexier, just quicker, faster, more modern, like exactly what you said. And the halo doesn't look like it's just an old device just plonked on top. It's integrated into the overall design.
Correct, it's part of the car.
Yeah, and it's good to see. So, yeah, I still really don't know what people are hating about it. Because I guess surely they would hate the way the halo looks now, because it's nothing like these 2021s.
Did you notice with the wings of the car, like the front wing, they've got it like, it's like the bottom plane of the wing just folds up on the edges rather than end plate stuck on the end?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
On the rear wing, there's no end plates also. It kind of just folds down.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot smoother look. And all of this is to eliminate as much of the aero vortices as possible. So, I don't know. I really like the way they look.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I know, like, travelling behind a car now, you lose almost 100%. It's close to almost zero on the front wing, downforce-wise.
What it is that currently they're saying if you're one car length behind, you'll lose 45% of the aero. Whereas with this new 2021 regs, it's projected that you will still retain 86% of your downforce. So they're not even going to lose 15% according to Ross Brawn's numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that'll change things dramatically, because that would have
That's a 30% gain right there.
That would have had a big difference on the race at Suzuka or even Mexico, especially Mexico, actually. Even Canada, like, it just would have, if they were able to run a lot closer without the detriment to the downforce and the aero package, there would have been completely different races come this year. So, I mean, it's a little bit annoying it's in 2021, but 2020 is sort of going to be just hopefully not a bad year, but, it doesn't look good for 2020.
I hear ya. It's kind of like that, isn't it? Especially now that we've seen these designs and kind of like got our mouths watered. It's like, oh, hang on, we've got another year in between before we get there. It's kind of like now we're all itching to get there, aren't we?
Yeah, it's like, what happened to 2020? Just forget about it.
We've had this carrot dangled in front of us, and now we just want to leapfrog straight to that.
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating. But,
the FIA did try, but it was vetoed by a few of the teams, Ferrari being one and Mercedes definitely being the other.
Not surprising.
With what I was getting to earlier, alluding to where they're able to spend up big next year in preparation for 2021. So if the smaller teams had their ways and actually came in next year, then they might have had their hands tied a bit.
Do you think 2021 regs will maybe entice some new manufacturers or a new team into the sport? Could we see 22, 24 cars, maybe even back to 26 cars on the grid?
I honestly don't know, Josh. I'd like to say yes, but I feel like we've already missed that boat with Porsche was so close. They had an engine designed and everything. And then when they really had a look at the rules and the regulations, they decided, that's not enough of a change for us to come in and risk our name.
Well, they're in Formula E now, so they've just finished testing. Actually,
that's what that's the direction they chose to go. I think it was going to be one or the other, and they decided, I think we're better off heading over there.
Well, that's why they got out of the WEC as well, the World Endurance Championships. Same sort of thing.
So
they won't be
to answer
dominant.
your question, I'd love for more teams to come in, and Haas. I know they've struggled a lot this year, and they've been a disappointment. There's no better way to put it.
They were looking so good early on, though.
Yeah, and they've really proved a new concept of entering Formula One. So I wish more teams could look at that model. But, I mean, time will tell, I guess.
Yeah.
There is a team being touted, I think it's a Chinese team, but I'm pretty sure that's been quashed now. So
we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. So, with the 2021 regs, though, was there anything that sort of stood out for you that you liked a lot or didn't like, or was it all sort of, I can get behind that type
Look,
scenario?
I'm most keen to just see the effect of these ground effects, what it's going to have to the actual racing, because after every race, as you know, it is the number one complaint from every driver. Once you get to a certain distance, it's just impossible to pass, they say.
Yeah.
Watching as an outsider and even as keen F1 followers, even where we find ourselves saying, come on, man, just go for it. What are you doing? It's like it looks so easy when you're just watching it, but the drivers are always saying that you've got no grip when you're, 2 seconds behind the car in front.
Yeah, it's really weird because it's obviously you can't see the forces acting on it, and it's just like, you should be able to do that without a problem. But, what I'm really keen to... Aren't they going for, more low-profile tyres as well? Is that...
the 18-inch low-profile tyres. That's going to be a massive change,
That's something I'm really keen to see how that plays a role in all of this.
The whole suspension structure of the cars are going to have to change because, once again, as we know with the current high-wall tyres...
Yeah,
a lot of the Formula One suspension is absorbed in those tyre walls.
Yeah.
Whereas now with the low-profile tyres, the whole concept is going to have to change of the suspension structure and the way they deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'm hoping I'm just hoping that they're a little bit easier to activate or get within their operating window because so many teams seem to have been having that issue this year with the tyres. I don't know if that's because of the sheer size and the nature of them. They're just so much bigger. You need more energy through them for them to become viable. But we'll have to wait and see. I think so. But that's one thing I'm really keen to wait and see what happens.
Well, last weekend they had the 2020 tyres, the development tyres, available to all of the teams through FP1 and FP2. Not one of the teams, actually, one team said that they didn't notice any difference in the tyres. I'll let you have a guess at who that was, and everyone else hated them.
Was it Mercedes?
No, it was Haas.
Oh, Haas.
Which I laughed when I read that when Grosjean said there really wasn't much difference, and yeah, because they can't make their tyres work now anyway. They couldn't make those tyres work either.
That makes a lot more sense why it was Haas, yeah.
But Christian Horner was a pretty vocal person on the 2020 tyres, and he said they were pretty much rubbish. I'm not sure what came out of Mercedes, but Ferrari were not in favour of them either. And I just read yesterday that now F1 are considering going back on those tyres and just scrapping them and just sticking with what we have now.
Typical F1 reaction there, I think. But at least, like I said to you earlier, at least they sort of tested this thing without actually just doing it without having any data. Because that would have been...
There's another two-day tyre test coming up after the Abu Dhabi race, so let's wait and see.
We'll wait and see. Anyway, that is actually light 2 done. We did the first light, which was talking about Lewis. Second light was the 2021 regs. Now let's talk about Ferrari for light 3. I think we should start with the qualifying, where they didn't have the pace this week. I mean, all top four were separated by, was it a tenth or something? It was ridiculously close.
Yeah, well, I had in my notes that
Yeah.
it was 0.519 between pole position and sixth place, which was Albon.
Right.
So just a smidge over half a second for the top 6 spots. That's pretty good, man.
It's pretty good, but what happened to Ferrari's qualifying pace? It's just gone, just disappeared, and now everybody's wondering what's happened there. Maybe some cheating.
You should send Max a text and ask him, see if he'll enlighten you on what happened to Ferrari this week.
Well, he accused them of cheating, didn't he?
Blatantly, straight out. He just said they are cheaters.
Yeah, the way he's come to that apparently is what the teams can do is they can ask the FIA for clarification on something, like to ask, is this thing allowed within the current rule set? And if it is, FIA will come back to the team quietly and say you're fine. But if they come back and say, nah, you can't do this within the regulations, all the teams are notified. So if there's something they've asked in the technical regulations that they can't do, FIA will then put a broadcast out to all the teams to tell them, if you're thinking of doing this, you can't, because it goes against the rules. So
that's right.
It's sort of a way for the teams to sort of get something banned without having to formally make a protest, so to speak.
It's a subtle way of telling the FIA, hey, heads up, check this out.
Yeah, so apparently Red Bull have done that, and now the story is that after Red Bull did that and the results came back negative, that Ferrari then had to stop doing whatever it was that they were getting the advantage. What that was, people are only speculating. Fuel leaking into the combustion engine and burning there at a higher rate, giving them the speed, all sorts of different things. But it's a very, very interesting scenario that's been played out here. And is it a coincidence that just Ferrari's pace went missing this weekend at the same time? I mean, I guess we'll never know.
It depends if you're in the Max and Ferrari are cheating camp, or if you're in the Tifosi camp and you're listening to Bonotto, who's saying that no, it's a total coincidence. The reason we were off the pace because both championships are lost. We know that. So we used this weekend as a big test weekend. We used older engines, but the problem with that is we didn't see any new parts on the cars, but he claims that they were just testing new things in preparation for next year. So
maybe I should cover up this badge before I answer that question on my shirt.
That's his Italian badge that he's covering up, guys, on the podcast who can't see this.
Yeah, I've got an Italian jersey on. I don't know if it's cheating, so to speak. I guess
I just wanted to make a point here, though, just quickly. I realised this weekend that Max is, I think, definitely, especially of late, in the mould of a Jacques Villeneuve or a Montoya, who muscles on track and at the same time off the track, he's never short of just speaking his mind. Whereas in the recent history, we've been accustomed to listening to guys like Lewis and even Vettel to a certain extent, who's always telling you what you want to hear or just always being politically correct. Whereas Max is the I don't give a fuck mold. So
yeah, you don't get the spin doctor from Max. You get
he's just telling you the way it is.
Yeah,
and you just love it or leave it.
I mean, I love it because it means
right.
We get to talk about it and we get things like this, and it's a massive, massive, massive coincidence and correlation that the same week that memo went out to everyone, it was the same race that Ferrari's pace just disappeared. And
so,
yeah, you got to make your own mind up on that one, I think.
What I find odd with it, though, is if it was fair income breaking the rules, why wouldn't the FAI take it further and actually do an investigation on it?
Because it's not.
Then cite them.
That's not what that that system is there for. It's there just to be used for clarification. Because like if a protest happened, then I'm sure there'd be more investigations. But if they're just... Because like at the same time, you've got to be sure... Like teams don't want to protest each other. But this way of, asking for clarification and sort of getting back a quiet answer if you're okay, because then it sort of stops giving out information to the rest of the team. But if it's wrong, obviously everyone needs to know. So I'm guessing Red Bull have someone's been sitting back for a while and trying to figure it out, and they went across this route of whatever it was that they said in that statement to the FIA, and maybe they were onto something. Maybe they got the nail on the head. But yeah, the teams don't want to have to protest.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
but then again, if you can protest, they love to protest as well. So I just said, I know they hate to protest, but at the same time they love it too, because just like Racing Point did with Renault, they got them checkmate.
Yeah, they
that's what I'm saying. So I think it's more a case of, in a way, this is a loophole. Whereas if you're suspecting but you're not 100% confident, it's a way for you to just put it out there and, like we said earlier, just give the FIA a heads up to check. So I'm almost more inclined to say, no, listen, either balls up, and if you are confident enough, put the protest in. If you're not, shut your mouth.
I don't know. I think it's a good system. Because at the same time, for a team, you can still ask if something's okay, and then, avoid breaking the rules without having... you might change something and go, it's sort of on the edge here. We don't really know. We're pushing the boundaries a bit. So if they want to get clarification and the FIA is, you're all good, then that's the end of it.
Yeah, but that should be between the teams, like as in your team and the FIA.
It is. It doesn't go to anyone else after that. If you're okay, it stays within the team. It's only when it's not okay that everyone gets notified. So that's what I'm
saying. So if it's not okay, if I ask the FIA a question and it's not okay, if they're telling me no, you can't do that, that's where it should stop. I'm saying. Whereas if I think you're doing something that's not okay, I should have to go to the FIA and say, listen, Josh F1, we think that's not in the rules. We need you to check that. Here's our protest.
Yeah, but they're not protesting the team, and they're not like it's a tool for the teams to clarify if something they're doing is right or wrong. But at the same time, it can be used to sort of flush out advantages the other teams might have gained. Because here, if we're saying that that's right, then we're just admitting that Ferrari are at fault straight away. We're saying Ferrari are cheating. We don't know that for a fact. It's just a massive, massive coincidence that the same week Red Bull put it in that Ferrari lost their pace.
This is what I was starting to say earlier, where like I hate being a fence sitter, but on this particular case, I'm not sure if I'm jumping into the Ferrari were cheating definitely. I almost want to say, it was a bit of a coincidence, because I was actually watching the Ferraris, and to my eye, I don't know if you were watching the actual Ferraris closely or not, it wasn't necessarily, they weren't losing the lap time on the straight. It was through the S's and especially up towards the end of them, and then through the back end of the lap, they just had no grip. They were just understeering, especially in the first 10 laps of that race.
Yeah, the tyres are a big issue for them this weekend. Big issue.
They just had no grip whatsoever.
Yeah.
And to me, that does not equal cheating with the engine. Like, it was a completely different issue, I thought.
Yeah, well, apparently that some of the teams have come out and said they weren't as fast on the straights as they were expecting them to be, but that could mean anything. But the tyres, I agree, this weekend their tyres were not working for them.
To counter for a second with the, they weren't as fast on the straights as they should be, again, I bring that to the tyres as well, to the point where if you're not getting the drive out of that last turn leading onto that straight, you're not going to be as fast down the end of it as you would be if you were powering off that turn. So it kind of all... that's why I said I'm kind of on the fence with this one, with this cheating. What do you call it?
Rhetoric.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. And but yeah, tyres, big issue for them. And then that probably was a few reasons for Vettel's. He just had a terrible first lap, and then his suspension, and man, not a good weekend for him.
Yeah, I don't know if there was something already wrong with that suspension or not. I'm sure the team would have known, but he was just going backwards, wasn't he? I mean, even Daniel Ricciardo passed him on that first lap.
But I think it was just his tyres, again, for him. I just don't think the tyres were in the operating window at all. That's what
I'm trying to say. And even he said it. He said it just does not feel right. Even Leclerc said that first stint, it
understeered.
He just said he doesn't know what was wrong with the car.
Yeah.
But it was very strange. They just went missing. I don't know if it was the massive track temperature change from Saturday to Sunday, which caught them out. I'm not sure.
But, yeah,
Leclerc was almost 10 seconds off the pace.
Yeah.
Off the lead after 7 laps of the race.
I know, and that's just not for... And I guess that's why everybody has sort of come out and said that maybe Ferrari were cheating. But, I mean, we've talked about it. But, yeah, it's just, again, you could just see with both Leclerc and Vettel that it was clearly the tyres that were giving them the biggest issues. And I don't know how they fixed that. I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll know at Brazil in 2 weeks' time, because you need some grip, especially through that middle sector.
Yeah, and you need a suspension too, so hopefully that'll be fixed up.
Yeah. It's odd, isn't it, that was the only car which actually suffered through all those bumps of Coda.
Because it happened when he come around 9, but they said stay off the apex at 8. But we all saw it go off at 9, so I'm not really sure where it broke, to be honest.
Unless there's more you want to say on the Ferrari talk there. I mean, that's our segue into our next light, which could be... I just want to bring up the bumpy Coda track.
Well, it's always notoriously bumpy, isn't it? Like, it's not a Silverstone smooth track. It's always been quite a rigorous and demanding track on the tyres in the surface being bumpy.
But apparently below the surface it's been sinking for a few years now, which has been causing the track to get very bumpy, especially leading into turn 1 there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but they showed it quite a few times on the coverage with them coming out of pit lane. There was a really vicious bump just as they were, accelerating out onto the actual main track.
Yeah.
And a few of the drivers were calling it not a bump, it's a jump.
It's a jump.
I know Gasly was complaining of a sore back after FP1. Yeah. And Lewis was complaining of being sore from the bumps.
Oh, poor man.
And again, I can see where they're coming from, but don't you think it adds character to the track rather than just having a billiard table track?
It does. You've done it on. You would have done it on sim games. You have those games where they just have the track and it's smooth as silk, and then you have the more realistic simulators where they laser scan and get all the bumps and jumps here and there, and it's a lot more. There's a lot. It gives like you said, the track has character then, and it becomes something to. It becomes something to be good at. The skill level needs to be there to navigate that.
This is why I wanted to bring it up from that point of it, because coming into turn 1, apparently the bumps, if you went really wide, the normal racing line to widen up the apex and come in was actually worse out to the right.
Mm-hmm.
But as a driver, that's what FP1 and FP2 and FP3, that's what it's for. You get to realise where those bumps are, and even though that's where you were last year, well then this year, okay, I'm going to have to avoid that bump. So that comes down to driving the track.
I mean, safety would be another call, but I don't think it's unsafe. It's not like the sausage curb at bloody Monza where he sent that Aussie flipping in the air in the F3s.
That's right, yeah. Like that was unsafe, yes.
Yeah. But
now
a few bumps here or there, even if they are a little bit more pronounced, just get on with it.
Drive around them.
Yeah, get on with it.
I mean, Leclerc said he had to learn on one of the bumps that he needed to shift up just before the bump, whereas he would like to have shifted pretty much on the bump.
Yeah.
Was the shift point. But hey, that's driving the track, isn't it? That's where like, okay, well, I can't do that, so I've got to do it here. And then you just start training yourself for the weekend to do that. That's what
I have to agree.
I actually think it's good character for the track. I'm not saying let's go out there and make all these tracks, super bumpy and dangerous for the drivers. But what I'm saying is, hey, man, it's the lay of the land. And if that's the way that track ends up, being a notoriously bumpy track, so be it. I mean, it is what it is. Like, just learn to drive it rather than try to stay on the exact same line that is the known racing line.
Yeah. Well, interesting enough, Coda is now closed down for the winter for repairs.
Resurfacing.
Yeah, so who knows, when we come back to Coda, it might not have the same character and bumps that we've come to love it so much for. But
so track limits was the other thing that did my head around Coda, because here we have the drivers complaining about bumps and how vicious it is on their poor little bodies, but at the same time they're driving off the track and making it bumpy as hell out there, pretty much where Sebastian's suspension ended up giving way at the exit of turn 9 there.
Yeah.
Nearly every driver was going off the track, not just a little bit wide. They were going off the track and hitting the dirt. Now, that's a bit of a bump when you're hitting the dirt there.
Yeah, well, they're like serrated curbs, obviously.
So the question I had was, we had an electronic track limit sensor at the exit of turn 19, the second last turn.
Which doesn't surprise me after what the IndyCar did last year.
That's right.
Yeah. That was just disgusting. There was a whole new track fucking invented. Like
that's right. I heard someone, I can't remember who said it or if I read it online, but someone said when the Indy cars were there, they turned Coda into an oval track.
Yeah, they literally did.
That just goes so wide.
It's like, don't need the... Oh, it was just insane. But anyway, I'll let you get through that thought.
Yeah, well, my point was, we've got the electronic track limits detector on that turn, but what about the rest of the 19 turns? Why don't we care about the rest of them? Like, coming through the S's, the biggest difference noticeable through turn 8, I think it was the two Toro Rosso drivers. You could see Kvyat would take just a little bit of the inside turn at 8 and then open it up to 9, whereas Gasly would pretty much drive off the track and cut turn 8 to almost straight line it up into 9.
Yep.
Which by doing that, he's carrying a lot more speed. So it shouldn't be allowed, is what I'm saying. In my book, that's off track limits. But why aren't we policing it there, but we're policing it over there? It just doesn't make sense.
I've never understood this whole FIA and track limit thing. Like, the white line is the boundary of the track. Then every corner should be under the same scrutiny. It doesn't matter if it's a corner where you're not going to gain an advantage or not. If it's the track limit, it's the track limit. And if you're outside that, then you should be penalised appropriately.
So
I don't know.
There's the old saying there about, beating a dead horse or flogging a dead horse or something.
Yeah.
But I'm going to continue to flog this one until someone from the FIA listens to this and says, if we've got the technology to police one corner, let's just police them all.
Yeah, they should. I agree. Because this whole interpreting and gaining an advantage BS just complicates it. It's a track limit. It needs to be black and white. And that's it. And yeah, if we could have sensors on every corner too, that'd be even better. So bring it on, I'd say.
It's not hard to do, mate. This is the pinnacle of motorsport. We know they've got a shit ton of money. It's doable.
Yeah, it is very doable. I would have to agree with you on that one. So
that's 4 lights done and dusted, and we have 1 light left, which was Albon's drive.
Yeah.
Just thought we'd quickly mention that for the 5th light.
He had he got he didn't really get squeezed. He squeezed himself, didn't he, up on Sainz out of turn 1. And that
between Leclerc and Sainz, he got sandwiched there, didn't he?
And he got it. Was it a puncture from memory?
He had front wing damage. I'm not sure if he copped a puncture or not. It was a good hit, like with
no, it wasn't
his left front and Sainz's right rear, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was definitely a wing missing. So he came in early for that, and I thought his day was over. Surely, I was like, "There's no way he's gonna get back from here." But 3-stopper, and then finishing in P6, I was blown away, and I think that's why he got driver of the day at the end of it, because it was one of the big drives that came out of the weekend.
Well, I'm starting to sound like Mr. Negative here, but you know me, I call it as I see it, and I did not agree with the driver of the day this weekend. I mean, for me, he put himself in that position. He's in one of the fastest cars out there. He ended up at the back of the grid. Sure, he had a great drive through. And other times when he was fresh to the scene, I praised him on it. But this time around, I was like, yeah, it was a good drive. Yes, he passed a lot of cars, but it's not a track where it's hard to pass. He was in one of the faster cars, so he passed 10 slower cars along the way, or however many it was, to get up to 5th, get back up to 5th.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he was about 72 seconds behind Verstappen at the end of the race. So,
well, I mean, that's
I'm just looking at it. I'm just bringing a different view here, and this is the way I saw it. Like, I saw that they all voted him driver of the day, and I'm like, man, people are just voting him just because they see him coming through the field and he's passing cars. He passed Sainz about 3 times because he had 3 pit stops. So, yeah, it looked great. And it provided a bit of action, I guess, which has probably had a lot to do with why everyone voted for him. But, again, I just feel like he put himself in that position.
Well,
this time round.
I see what you're saying. I don't think he put himself in it the way Verstappen put himself in it with Bottas last weekend.
I'd probably have to agree with that, yes.
Because he's usually pretty good off the start. He's pretty cautious. He's not too aggressive. I mean, I've seen him make aggressive overtakes, like the one at Suzuka on, was it Sainz as well there? Where he just came from way back. Like, I don't know what he was going at, but he got away with it. Yeah, I don't know. Just the fact that he didn't get down on himself too much, and he still fought to get up into P6 after having a terrible start, I thought was pretty admirable. I know he's got the car to do it, but he did it. He did it at the end of the day. Like, this is the first time he's had to do that in this Red Bull car.
No, he came back from, wasn't it Spa? He started at the back of the grid and he came through the field. And
yeah, but that's starting at the back of the grid on, like, after pitting on the first lap, you're already so far behind now. You know what I mean?
But don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing on Albon here. And you know I'm a fan of his as well, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know that by now. But it's just that I'm calling it race by race. And in this particular race, I have to say, I wasn't as impressed as a lot of other people seem to have been.
Oh, I'm surprised. I mean, I thought it was just a good drive. I know, like you said, he sort of maybe got what he deserved out of turn 1, driving the way he was. But again, I don't think it was the way like Verstappen did in Mexico. But I just thought for a rookie, under the pressure he's probably under, to keep cool, and then to make the overtakes and to still finish P6 after that start, I thought was a very good effort at the end of the day.
He actually finished P5, much to my...
Oh, he did too, yeah.
Which probably...
I'm reading P6 here on the screen.
Which probably made me more annoyed because you picked him for 5th and I had Dan for 5th, and then he passed Dan with a few laps to go, so that's probably another reason why I'm a bit dirty on him.
I did pick him too.
So now you see... Can't say I'm talking from a pocket because we're not betting on it, but it was another thing I was pissed off about with a few laps to go.
It's fair enough. It's fair enough. But yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because I thought a lot of people enjoyed it. I enjoyed it considering the race that it was, and
I enjoyed a lot of his passes. Yeah, well, I said what I said, so.
You did. You did. Shut up, Aussie. Shut up. All right, well, that will do us for the 5 lights on, 5 lights out. If you got any comments or queries or opinions on especially the 2021 regs and what you think of the cars, I'd like to hear it. But at the same time, don't forget, if you haven't already, Lights Out F1 on Facebook, please go ahead and like us on that page. And to share or subscribe or to give us a rating on whatever platform you are listening from, be it Podbean, Spotify, Podcaster, there's Stitcher FM,
find us everywhere,
Apple.
guys.
You can just search Lights at F1, and if you could give us your feedback, that'd be awesome. So let's hit the checkered flag section up, where you've got a few talking points. What would you like to bring up first?
Well, we were just talking about reviews and leaving some feedback for us. So let's start with our mate Sean, who on our Discord channel, he gave us a bit of feedback and said he was enjoying the podcast and he was listening to the Japanese review. And he asked us a question with the Renaults being DQ'd from the race, if it now affects our awards that we gave out, because he noted that we both gave Dan a point in our S3s.
Yeah, we certainly did.
So I said to him, we'll answer in the podcast, and here we are. So does that change the way you felt?
Does Renault's double DQ affect our points in Japan? No. It really goes on the performance on the day, not really sort of how the stewards saw it technically after. That doesn't affect my decision here. Like, even if he was given a 10-second time penalty for something, well, if that happened during the race, it probably would have, but because it happened after, and it was so long after as well, for me, it doesn't affect it. It was how we performed on the day. And, otherwise, it'd be actually, technically, if I did that, I'd have to go back and change a few other ones from earlier in the year as well. So, yeah, not for me.
That's true. You'd have to change every time we've given points to him. We'd have to DQ him, basically, because I'm always talking about being consistent, and which is the part I don't agree with the stewards and FIA a lot of the time, because if I'm DQing him from my S3 points from Japan, then I've got to DQ him from the whole U, because especially in light that now the system in some shape or form has been on the Renault from back in the Lotus days from 2015.
Yeah, which is insane to think about.
Yeah, so that's how long they've been using this system or a variation of it. So I still not sure if this is classified in inverted commas cheating or not. So
yeah,
I felt like...
Well, technically it wasn't. It was just the sporting. That's why it was so controversial, you know?
Yeah, so no, my points still stand. I was live at that race and I enjoyed watching Dan pass the card almost every time he came into turn one.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that race, and I stand by the points I gave him.
No, Ricardo will keep the points he's earned from me as well.
And the next thing I'd like to mention is, did you catch light of Perez's penalty and why he started in pit lane?
I didn't, because I didn't even get to watch the race live this week. I had to watch replay. So I missed a lot of what happened prior to and before the races. So you're going to have to catch me up.
We've had this before with drivers missing the weighbridge in practice.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. So is that what happened to him?
Perez missed the weighbridge, and he was deemed to start from pit lane, which once again, I have to say, I just think it's way too harsh a penalty for a driver missing a weighbridge in practice.
It seems pretty harsh, eh? Yeah, especially
really
in practice.
Harsh.
And it was only FP2 as well.
It's almost like kick him while they're down sort of thing. Like, you know, they haven't really had a great year racing point, and Perez himself, he's just started coming good, and then cop this.
Yeah. I don't know. It just doesn't seem fair, but I've always said this: if it's in the books, it's in the books.
Yeah.
But maybe it needs to be changed because that doesn't seem right.
I just thought I'll bring it up.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean,
that's what happened there.
I wouldn't have done that as a steward, giving him such a harsh penalty. I don't know how. Maybe just give the team a fine or something, you know. But I don't know. FP2 missing a weighbridge. That's harsh, dude.
In some ways, we're just so pedantic, aren't we? In Formula One.
I mean,
and then in other ways,
yeah.
we're so relaxed.
Yeah, like there's rules for a reason. Some are there for safety. Some are there to keep the sport, you know, competitive. But I don't know about this one. I really don't.
So I'd like that rule changed.
Yeah,
I think it's way too harsh to be relegated to start from pit lane, just for a driver missing someone calling you onto the weighbridge, because
especially in
before too, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to spot.
No, especially if your
drivers are distracted with something else.
Maybe the FIA need to just get a warning system, a better warning system for them.
I believe they're supposed to be working on it, but let's see what comes of it.
Well, as soon as they're into the, you know, whenever they make the decision to do it, maybe someone who's making that call, can directly talk to the driver and say you need to be on the weighbridge, so there's no.
That's it.
Misunderstanding.
Simple, eh?
Yeah.
It's not even implementing a whole new system. It's just get on the blower and tell him.
Yeah, just
get on the weighbridge.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd like it changed because that. If that had happened to Ricardo or someone, I'd be bloody livid. So, yeah, that's a bit harsh.
So, Giovinazzi got announced during the week as confirmed with Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, I didn't think.
What's it called?
I didn't think Hulkenberg was going to stay around.
No, Hulkenberg is off to
DTM.
DTM.
That's what I said.
Is the word? Yep.
That's exactly what I said.
That's the word. So there's just nowhere left for Hulk now. Is there any empty seats left, or is that it? Is that all the drivers? Williams. I don't think Latifi is necessarily.
Kubica is being replaced,
yet, but they haven't confirmed the second seat, have they?
Oh, not from my knowledge. Not at the moment.
All right. The other big news of the week. It's not, directly F1 related, and we are, predominantly an F1 podcast. Yes, I know, but Roger Penske bought the whole IndyCar series and the Indianapolis Speedway during the week.
Yeah, that's a big. That's a lot of money.
That's not bad going, for an 82-year-old bloke. That's
doing all right.
I haven't heard a figure, but it couldn't have been cheap.
It has to be in the billions. That has to be in the billions.
Like, I'm just like, wow. Like, I know he's got some clout, and he's definitely up there now, isn't he? Like in the motor racing world.
He's basically the Murdoch of motor racing.
You'd have to think so, right? I mean, he's even stretching into V8 supercars here. He just won Bathurst with Dick Johnson Motor Racing, and they're investors in that team. So that leads me to the next question of, kind of goes back to what you asked earlier with new teams coming in. I wonder if there's any thoughts of a Penske F1 team on the grid.
I mean, I wouldn't say no.
He's obviously got the money.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no. And who knows, it could open it up to the American audience a little bit more. Because Penske's a well-known name.
That's the big thing with Chase and Formula One management really trying to push Formula One in America and a new track at Miami.
Yep.
So there'll be 2 F1 races in America, and we've got Haas as an American team, but if Penske was to join, I almost feel like that would be even more of an American team than Haas. That would kind of be the real red, white, and blue team.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, people would get behind it 100% in the States.
I think you'd get a lot of NASCAR fans, IndyCar fans, just following that Penske F1 team.
Yeah. IndyCars go ridiculously fast. Like, ridiculously fast. Like, upwards of 400 k's an hour. It just boggles my mind how quick they go.
In circles they do, yes.
Oh, it's insane. But And that's, I know I'm going backwards a little bit, but that's why everyone was bitching about the 2021 regs. They thought F1 was going to be too slow now.
Well, they're touting him to be 3 to 4, on average about 3 seconds a lap slower, they're saying. But, you know, these numbers never correlate. I remember last year they were saying that the cars were going to be, you know, a second and a half slower. But in actual fact, we're going a lot faster.
Yeah, but even if we are 3 seconds a lap slower, it doesn't mean the racing's going to be boring. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I totally am in that school of thought where as long as the racing is good and the cars are able to race wheel to wheel, I mean, it shouldn't really matter how fast the cars go.
No, because there's going to be a limit.
But having said that, I also feel like Formula One being Formula One, they kind of have to be the fastest cars out there. Like, it's kind of like not as much of a wow factor, to take some words out of Alonso's mouth, I guess, if a Formula One car is only a second a lap faster than a GP2.
Well, IndyCar's already quicker, so I don't know if that's really a...
No, you're not correct. It's not quicker. On an oval, they're quicker, but
no,
like
but
around Coda,
I'm just thinking...
An IndyCar was, like, what was it, 18 seconds a lap slower?
Obviously lap times, but I'm just thinking raw speed. The IndyCar can go a lot quicker, I think.
But I'm sure...
I don't think the F1 cars can go as quick as Indy cars. No, not a chance.
Well,
I think they got the torque. They got the torque and the bottom end, the acceleration. But top end, I reckon IndyCar would beat an F1 car right now.
I mean, it's kind of what that's built for and what an F1 car is built for. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure if an F1 car was out there built for an oval...
Oh, yeah, but then the point of... F1 needs to be the fastest is sort of a redundant point. If you're saying
when I say fastest, I'm talking lap times.
Oh yeah, good.
I'm not talking about they need to go 420 kilometers down the straight. Like, you know,
no, good
I'm
point.
saying that they need to be the fastest race cars out there.
But they're still gonna be. But I mean, some of the LMP1 cars now are scratching Formula One lap times as well.
And I think that's where Formula One needs to push the boundaries. That's where I'm saying, like, I can see the point where if we're trying to slow the cars down by 3 to 4 seconds. Again, I'm not saying I necessarily am in this thought, but I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here. And I'm saying Formula One being Formula One, they need to be beasts to drive. And I just feel like at the moment, they're not really beasts to drive. You know what I mean?
Well, you need to get rid of the flappy paddles and bloody... just
DRS and
just have a single clutch on the launch.
And, you know, so it's just we've come down this path, and I just fear that it's almost like we've backed ourselves into a corner.
Anyway, we'll see what happens, but I don't think there's too much to be concerned about, if I'm honest. The only other thing was the penalty Kvyat got for spinning Perez. He sort of saw that as an attack on himself. I don't know why he's thinking that way.
Who saw it as an attack on himself? Perez?
No, Kvyat. He saw it. The stewards handing him down the penalty was them singling him out.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. He wasn't happy with the decision because he got put down to 12th, I think, after a 10-second time penalty. So... he sort of saw it as an attack. In a row. It is.
And that's why he's probably feeling a bit, you know...
Because he saw it as just racing hard, and racing, was racing. But I sort of have to agree with the steward's decision there again.
Yeah, well, it's almost a copy-paste of Mexico, wasn't it?
It was pretty much the same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Just with a pink car instead of a yellow one.
I hope this isn't spiraling Kvyat into that bad space in his head. I hope he can, take a deep breath and just chill.
I'd hope so too. Well, do you want to move on to the S3s now?
Yeah, we can do that. But just a quick point of interest, just for everyone out there, if you haven't heard.
Here we go. Yeah.
No, well, just Hamilton and Rossi. They're going to switch rides on December 9. Rossi's done it, as we know, before with Schumacher around Fiorano, and apparently he can hold his own in a Formula One car. I remember Schumacher being surprised with how well Rossi took to the Ferrari. I think he was like 0.5 seconds off Schumacher's time.
That's pretty
which
good.
isn't bad.
That's
yeah,
pretty
he was
good.
half a second off Schumacher's time around Fiorano for just a non-F1 guy. He's a 9-time MotoGP champion.
Yeah, just shows the skill he's got.
He's 40 years old now, and there's no talk that he's thinking about F1 here or anything. It's just purely a promotional stunt because they're both involved with I think it's Monster Energy, the drink.
Right. A bit like how Red Bull have cross promotions.
Yeah, and it's a perfect opportunity. Between them, 15 world championships between the two of them.
I know, it's insane.
Yeah.
Some of the most successful athletes out there.
It's crazy.
And they're going to share trades for a weekend, which is pretty interesting.
Like, just how cool is that? It's just fun, right?
It is. I'm glad we get to see stuff like that. Right. Now let's do the S3s. Superstar, the surpriser and the stinker. If you don't know, Superstar will get 2 points. The surpriser will get 1. And the stinker of the race will lose a point. At the end of the year, we'll tally them up. And we'll find out who our best and worst drivers are. Superstar for Kota. Who have you gone for?
My superstar for the weekend was Bottas.
Woo! Same.
Mate, I think that's his best race since Australia.
Yeah, it is. And plus, like you've mentioned before, it was a Hamilton track. And he outdrove a Hamilton at his own circuit.
100%. He had it all over him all weekend.
Yeah. Well, 2 points apiece there for Bottas, so I gave it to Bottas too. No surprises why. Now, I'll actually on to the surpriser. Who's your pick?
Mine was Dan. I thought he had a great race.
Yeah, he did.
I tossed up between him and Norris, to be honest. I thought
Norris had another
great
good
race
weekend.
as well.
He did. I just couldn't go past Albon again. I thought it was just a good recovery. I know he got himself there at the beginning, but to recover the way he did, I was impressed. I wouldn't have, if he had finished 5th just by finishing 5th, I don't think I would have given him that point. But to get to 5th where he was, I was happy with that one. So a point for him.
Okay, fair enough. And to be honest with you, if Kvyat didn't have his brain fart in that last lap,
yep,
I think I could have set a precedence this week and not given a stinker, because I don't think there was anyone else who stood out for me as a stinker.
Well, I actually said exactly the same thing. So Kvyat got my stinker point 2 weeks in a row now, which I think's a S3 first. I'm pretty sure.
I actually like the old boy Kvyat, but
so do I. But you can't do that.
He's just lost the plot these last two races a little bit at the end there.
He's lost himself points for doing that.
I don't know if it's fatigue or what it is, but it's just no good.
It's sort of almost like his old habits are coming out, you know?
That's what I just said to you. Yeah, I hope this isn't spiraling him into that bad place.
Yeah, he needs to be careful, I think. Your rookie watch for this week, brother?
My rookie watch was 1 point for Norris.
Stesso. I gave it to Norris as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He looked really good at the start. He
was very racy.
Yeah, he got his elbows out. He was looking aggressive. He was looking like a race car driver. And not a bad place to finish up as well. So, where did he finish? In 7th. So, ahead of Sainz. So, I had to give it to Norris for that one.
Mate, he had a great race. And you know what? He was well due for one too.
Oh, he's had such bad luck for the last few races. And he's deserved it. So... yeah, it was good for Norris to get that, I think. Right. So that covers S3s and the rookie watch. We will update you with that at the end of this Formula One season, which we aren't too far away from now.
2 races left.
We've got Brazil and Abu Dhabi, so we'll have to get cracking, and we'll have to have a special episode, I think, where we can go over the year and give our points out that way. Podium predictions from Texas and then forward on to Interlagos. How did you and I go this week?
Well, like I said, you stole my point by having Albon in 5th, and
I did.
That was the only point you got, and I had Dan in 5th, which was my only chance of a point.
Oh, it's looking good for me now to win this.
Oh, yeah, bloody arsey bugger.
I think the average you need now is almost impossible to get.
6 out of 5?
Yeah, so... From memory anyway. So I know we were close, but I've had a few good runs after the break, so it's been a little bit more difficult. Anyway, it's, like I said last week, it's such a difficult task to do week in, week out, where we thought it was going to be, easy.
So do you have Ricardo on top in Brazil?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I
thought you were going to make a ballsy move.
I'm going to chuck Verstappen in first place.
Wow.
For Interlagos. They're going to be disadvantaged from that last corner down the bottom of the hill up towards turn 1, but I reckon he can do it.
Not necessarily. I mean, don't be surprised that Honda's not too bad, It's got a bit of top end in it.
Oh, yeah, but the other guys, they're better on the straights. He'll have them in the corners, though. Dead set.
And he is good around there, because remember what happened last year? I mean...
Well, yeah, I do. That's why I can't look past him.
So, I'm going to go back to my old faithful and put Vettel on top, so that's another points for me.
So Ferrari aren't going to win this weekend.
Yeah, so...
Oh, whenever
you never know. They might go back to their cheating ways.
Oh, hopefully.
I got Vettel to beat Max.
Vettel to beat Max. So you got Max in second.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Second for me is Bottas. I think he's going to have another good weekend. I think he's just in the form right now. I need to stick with it.
It will actually be good for him to finish off the season on this high.
Yeah.
And somehow hit the ground running. Although he did that this year and it still fizzled out, didn't he?
Yeah. I just think he's in form right now, and he'll take that with him to Brazil, I think. Third will be Hamilton, I think. For me.
Okay.
Who gets your bronze medal?
I'm going to give it to Bottas.
The first Mercedes. Okay, interesting.
Yep.
Fourth for me will be Vettel, I think.
Okay. I'm going the other Ferrari for fourth.
Leclerc. Oh, that's the other thing. Everyone keeps calling him Leclerc. Like he said he says it all the time. His name is Leclerc. Say the frickin' C.
It's Crofty's fault because he keeps calling him Chocolate Eclair.
I get the joke, but
no, he doesn't call him Chocolate Eclair. He just always calls him Leclerc. But I don't know why.
Oh, you're joking. I get it.
Yeah, I'm joking about the chocolate.
I thought he actually did for a minute.
No, that'd be gold if he did.
Because I know what's his name, Gallagher off WTF1. He's in love with Charles Leclerc, but he always goes Charles Leclerc or something, and I'm just like, it's Leclerc. He says it like that. Anyway, it's just a stupid thing that annoys me. Fifth, Sainz. I'm going with Sainz.
I nearly did that, But I'm thinking... Do I go Hamilton? All right, I'll go Hamilton. Just to cruise home to fifth, He's still in party mode. 6-time champion.
Yeah, he can do what he wants now.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll have to see how that all pans out. When is Interlagos due? On November 15th. So we've got a week. Next week, which is good. Gives us a break on the podcast. Because we've had two in a row now, haven't we? It's been a busy
three
in a row.
Third one.
Yeah, I don't know how the drivers do it sometimes because just be such a hectic schedule. Absolutely hectic.
Yeah, and we're not moving anywhere from home. They're going from this country to that country to that.
And we just sit here and talk about it. Well, on to the Fantasy League results this week. I'm yet to check them, but I'm hoping I did pretty decent.
Okay, because I haven't checked them either this week.
Oh, well, let's have a look. Because I haven't used my wildcard thing yet either. I was contemplating about doing it, but I sort of couldn't justify using it at this moment. I might use it for Brazil just to see what happens, but yeah, I don't know. What about you? When did you use your wildcard?
In the summer break, and hasn't really done too much for me, unfortunately.
Who did you get rid of? Like, was there like anyone major that you wanted to get rid of and get into the team?
I changed my entire team. I was a Mercedes team before the summer break. Then I went to Ferrari, which kind of served me pretty good for the first few races. But the way Ferrari have been going means I've been going bad.
Not great. You can still join our league if you want as well. I know we're getting near the end, but you can join at any time, and we'll obviously be doing this again next year. And we'd be interesting to see. A lot of people do fade off halfway through, but we've stuck with it. Where are we? The FNL1 Friday Night League. Let's have a look. I am up to 7th place. You are Aussie Chase FNL1. You're in 11th, so you're up one from last week.
How many points did I get this week?
Let's have a look. Well, the top point scorer this week was Dominator X, who got 201.
Wow.
Brian was only a few points behind with 198, so they were doing really well.
Massive scores.
Yeah, huge scores. I got 158, so I pretty much hit that 150 average. East Coast Autos, Bethany only got 142 this week.
Ooh.
And where the hell are you? You're on 19th overall for the week, 120.
That's not a very good round at all.
No, so...
That's like I said, when Ferrari wins the race, I go well because they're my team. And I've kind of got all my eggs in one basket because I've got both Leclerc and Vettel in my team. So...
Yeah, Magnussen got me no points this week, so I probably could have scored a few more if I had got rid of Magnussen, which I think I'll be doing this week, actually. As for you, though, Aussie, Vettel lost you a point.
Yeah, it was a retirement.
You've got both Ferrari guys in there, Vettel and
That's
Leclerc.
what I said. I've got the Ferrari team car, and I've got both the Ferrari drivers. So when they have a really good weekend, I score well. When they don't, I don't.
Yeah, that's the sort of risk you got to take in this game. It's like, do I take the two drivers from the same team, and then because like you win and lose points if they out-qualify each other, and then just hope that they have a good result? Or
that was my theory after the summer break. I thought, you know what, let's just bank on this. And after the first few races back from summer, I was looking good. I was starting to move up the ladder a bit, but then the last few races, no good.
Not good. Well, overall now, East Coast Autos is 3008. Her closest rival, Dominator X, 2,998. So there is literally 10 points separating the top two.
Wow, he really caught up a lot.
Yeah.
Dominator. So there's 2 races to go. So that's really spiced things up now there at the top of the leaderboard.
And the Boom in third is 2,900. So if he has a good week and they have a bad one, it could even change it again. So it's going to come down to the wire here. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm close enough to make a difference. But I could probably fight for, I think maybe 5th or 6th, but not much higher. Anyway, interesting stuff. That was the Fantasy League. Now let's the Sim Racing Esports News wrap up. We're going to add a new flavour this week. Aussie's going to give us a bit of a rundown from the FNL1 results last week.
Yeah, well, our race was in Mexico, and I thought, we do the wrap up here on the podcast. You're our commentator, so rather than me just writing a one-sided, blog on Facebook, we get a little chat about it here.
Yeah,
get the commentator's view. As I said, we were in Mexico. We had our usual fast guys locking out the front row of the grid with BP and Hawks, who are at the top of the table as well.
Yeah, they're providing a lot of competition at the moment, which is good.
They're really on it, the Renault and the Toro Rosso there. BP had a shocker start, and he did a Vettel.
Yeah,
he was down to about 6th after lap 1, from what I saw when I watched the stream back. So he recovered well. It was a good drive back. Zen, our defending champion, he had a ripper start. Conversely to...
I thought he was going to go on to win it, actually. He looked really good.
Well, the trouble with him was the game glitched him where he didn't get to select his tyres because we had a wet Q2, so the strategy was open to set before you hit the grid, and it's like it gives you about 30 seconds. So in that time, he missed. Actually, I think he wanted to start on the mediums, but he ended up on the softs, which meant he was really good in that first part of the first stint, but then he had to pit and he put the hards on, trying to make him last the whole race.
Yes.
And it didn't quite pan out.
No, it didn't.
They kind of died towards the end there.
It's a shame that glitch exists, if you can call it a glitch. Is it just he needed more time, or?
Yeah, I think so. Because the way it is, you've got for people who are on the game would know, but before the race, you've got 2 strategy options on your screen. You've got the preferred one that the game gives you, and then you've got the alternate one down the bottom where you can modify the strategy and you can compare the delta times.
Yeah.
So I think that's what he was doing, but while he's comparing the delta times to see which strategy was going to be the best way to run it, the game timed out, so it's time to hit the grid with what's already there, so he didn't actually get to hit the select button.
Right.
Mike in the Toro Rosso, teammate to BP, and Botts in the Alfa Romeo, they also started on softs. So there was the 3 of them. I don't know if you noticed, but through the race, Crazy Kiwi had a great race this week. In the Renault.
He quietly had a good one, yeah. He did.
Yeah, I think it's his best race since we've been doing this series. I mean, he ended up finishing 5th. The eventual winner of the race was Hawks.
Oh, great run to the end.
And then him and BP had a good tussle, didn't they, in the last lap there?
Yeah, they did. It was good to watch. And BP almost binned. Well, he did bin it.
He spun it. Yeah. He didn't bin it. He spun it. Yeah. So he ended up finishing 2nd still, and Zen brought it home for 3rd. It was a penalty fest at Mexico.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers were taking liberties with track limits for the S's especially. And the entrance into the stadium, everyone was going wide there. I don't know what it was.
At the bottom of the back straight there, the right-hander, yeah.
Everyone was doing it. And I don't know if they just weren't, acclimatizing to the track conditions or the braking zones or whatever it was, but it just seemed to be happening to everyone at some point.
What it is, it's a corner. It's a right-hand corner there coming into the stadium. And if you don't get your braking point right, the actual turn, it's a bit slower than you think.
Right.
So once you start turning, then once you start understeering, you're out wide. So I did notice it on the stream too, that a lot of guys were running wide there. And but this is what I was saying earlier with Coda. Like, if we're going to restrict one corner, let's restrict them all, which is pretty much what this game does to us. We're forced to drive on the track limits.
Yeah.
So it's not easy. Our driver of the day was Hawksy.
Ah, okay.
He had 67% of the vote.
Well, he's
voted by
favourite.
Fans.
Favourite.
He's the Verstappen.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are saying they'd vote for him, so I'm not surprised.
I had, for me personally, I gave my vote to Crazy Kiwi. I thought, like I said, I rewatched the stream and I thought he had a great race. So well done to him.
Yeah. I think I voted for Hawks too, so I'm in that camp.
He's just been so solid this year, hasn't he? I mean, BP has got some crazy speed, and he's really trying to chase Hawks down in the championship. But Hawks is just so solid at the moment. He's just... What is he? I'm looking at the championship table here. He is on 245 points and BP is on 194. So it really is between them. Zen's not that far away, but he just hasn't been able to crack it of late. He's been consistently getting thirds.
I don't think he'll be getting a fourth title. That's what
he's on 178 points. Yeah, so he will need a ripper finish to the season if he's got any hope of jagging that fourth title.
Yeah, he'll need some wins, and he'll need Hawks and BP to have a few DNFs as well, which will be hard to come by because they're pretty consistent, those two.
They are. They've really streaked away, so they're going really well. And where it's really heating up now is in the Constructors' Championship, where Renault is on 299 points and Toro Rosso is on 294. Like, as it stands now, I think Toro Rosso, with Mike hitting some form there too, they're probably the strongest team out there at the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Mike's been consistently 4th and 5th, so he's going really well. And that was our race in Mexico. BP had the fastest lap.
He did. And the finish was separated by some thousandths of a second. It was a photo finish in the end, if you haven't seen it. But very close between Hawks and BP, but in the end it was Hawks who had a nose first.
If anyone out there would like to have a look at the race, it's all on there on Josh's YouTube channel, on Demo 1 Garage. It's on our Facebook page, FNL1eSports. All our streams are there, live streamed. Josh is the commentator. Our next round will be this Friday, which will be COTA.
US, yes. Times have changed a little bit, though, because daylight savings, so don't forget... Well, it hasn't changed for you in the other states, but for everyone else, we're now an hour earlier. At 9, we'll start at 9 o'clock this time, instead of the usual 10 o'clock.
F2 race last week was at Monaco, and it was a bit of a wreckfest at times, wasn't it, around there?
The F2s, yeah, it was. They were at Monaco, and well, it's a hard track to begin with, let alone drive a car that's prone to understeer. So they were doing the best they could, I think.
It was great viewing.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was a good race, good to watch, a lot of front nose wings here and there. A big repair bill, but who cares? It was fun.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Just to give the congratulations to the podium winners in that F2 race last week. The feature race was taken out by Lukey, who's having a pretty good run there of late. Mike took second.
Who was our new driver that absolutely blew us all away with his ability? It was Zen's friend. Do you remember who I'm talking about? No.
Was it Swatter?
No, I don't know if it was Swatter. Remember Zen's mate that come in, said he lost his virginity sim racing that night?
Oh, that was Swatter, I think.
It was Swatter? Right.
Yes, he's fresh to racing. He's had a crack at the F2s. So anyone else out there who'd like to have a go, we've got the last round coming up this week at USA, but more than likely we will be doing a Series 2 of the F2s because the F1s are still running, so we'll try and run it in conjunction just as we are now, where the Thursday nights will be the F2s. We do have a few spots there that we wouldn't mind filling with some fresh drivers. So
will we see any F2s up to F1s for the remainder of the season, or how's that going to pan out?
We're just having a look at it now. We do have a couple who have already made the step up. And we've also got an ex-F1 driver making a return this week. So if you've been watching us for a while, the name Marcus should be pretty familiar to you guys. I mean, he was always quick, and he's making a return to the series this week. It's exciting to see, actually. So it's going to create even more action. It could even interrupt things at the front for Hawks and BP. You never know. We shall see what happens there, and he will be He will be Zen's new teammate in the Mercedes, as Yayo has made a mid-season retirement from F1.
There we go.
He might be the Rosberg of FNL1 eSports, because he might be going straight from a Mercedes to commentating.
Commentary role, right.
Hopefully he doesn't open a YouTube channel next and start dissing all the F1 drivers.
We'll see what happens.
So just to quickly wrap up the F2s there. So we had Lukey beating Mike, and then Hawks finished third in the feature race. And in the sprint race, BPV8 won that, and Bots came second, and Mike was third. I think from memory, Hawks crashed out of that sprint race.
I can't remember. Can't remember. Anyway, final round this week, and it'll be live on the usual places: Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Just search Demo 1 Garage or FNL1eSports on it, Facebook as well, at 7:30 East GMT 10, which is up here in Brisbane time. So, or 8:30 for the Eastern States with daylight savings. So, love to see you along,
guys. Yeah. Now, we do all of our racing on Codemasters with the F1s and the F2s. I do want to mention them though. They did hit a few headlines this week. They did the renders for that 2021 Regs car, and it didn't take long for people to notice that that Codemasters themselves used Assetto Corsa, the Spa track, to show off the new 2021 Formula One car, which is just unacceptable if you're the CEO at Codemasters, if you ask me, because they're putting that out into social media and they're not even using their own game.
And they've just renewed the contract to 2025, whatever. And
so I don't understand what they were thinking there.
No.
That was a massive facepalm moment. And the other thing which Codemasters have done in the latest patch they've introduced in this game, for people who play it will know, it's just does not make any sense whatsoever to me. This is the official F1 title, and they've introduced a thing where any car which gets blue flags will be ghosted.
That's ridiculous.
For guys who don't know, what that means is if you're leading the race or as you come up to lap a back marker, you can just drive straight through them now because they just automatically get ghosted.
Yeah, well, it happened in our F1 race on the stream, and I thought they were disconnected, but it turns out they were just back markers being ghosted, which is... I mean, as a league, we'd probably... Did they give you the option to turn this off, or is it just blanket?
I was just discussing that today with Zen, so we're going to try it this Friday, but I'm not sure if we can turn that feature off or not.
If they don't, that's just ridiculous. Because I get it. I get it for online modes where you don't really know, like public racing or maybe some more lower level leagues, but this is supposed to be a simulator of F1. This just boggles my mind.
It's just like you said earlier, if you're gonna ghost back markers, you may as well not even bother having blue flags.
Yeah, the blue flags.
What's the point?
Exactly.
So it just sometimes the things they do just don't add up in my mind. I mean, they are the official Formula One title, for God's sake. They are the only ones who have the license, and then to do crap like this just does my head in no end.
Yeah, well, the guy that was talking to me on Facebook just randomly about it, he summed it well when he said that they make this game for everyone. And when he means everyone but the hardcores sim people. Because it's an accessible game, and that's what they want apparently, which I guess this fits into perfectly. Just again, I don't know about it.
You and I have had so many discussions, over Codemasters and all of this, and I mean we could do a whole podcast on it, really, couldn't we? But it's just as I always say, they're so close to having a great title that represents Formula One, yet they are so far.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
And the other frustrating thing for me is a lot of the public or consumers are happy with the product as it is. So no one's going to be really pushing them to do better. Like there's a small voice like you and me, but the majority of people just think it's perfect as it is. So what does Codemasters need to do now to get it sold? They don't really have to do much. Just make sure the next version looks a bit more flashy, and I think they'll sell copies.
That's what it is. It's
Yeah.
all about looks. Because
Yeah.
honestly, it really does surprise me in the community how people who pay the money year in, year out for this game, and are obviously Formula One fans of some form or other,
Yeah, they'd have to
But-
be.
then they don't really seem that interested in chasing the reality of Formula One.
Yeah. Plus,
I mean,
it'd mean
it-
the F1 eSports would have a little bit more weight behind it. You know, a little bit more. What's the word? Just authenticity to it. You know, because at the moment they do 25%, and plus the setups aren't real. Just all those little things. You know, like I said, we
Yes.
could go on forever, but we
I mean,
we don't think it's perfect.
This could definitely be something we'll just put on the back burner for a off-season rant cast.
Yeah, I think it'd have to be. But yeah, ghosting, I don't know. Let us know what you think if you've got an opinion on it. Because I don't think blue flags are just pointless now.
Pretty much.
Quickly, before we end it, there was a bit of drama in the Forza Racing Championship qualifying round. And this is to go on to the finals, mind you, for... don't quote me, but I think it was $250,000, so $250,000. The servers just disconnected the winning driver, and he was
Oh no!
on to win. So that's it. He's done. His race is over, and he didn't qualify. So
Wow,
Yeah.
I did not hear about this. So
That's the
what
thing,
recourse
no one-
is there anything?
no one really did talk about it, and that's what I find so surprising.
So what recourse does that guy have? So you're saying it wasn't his doing, it wasn't his internet, it was the actual server which kicked him.
It was the Forza Microsoft server, whatever, not doing its job. Just kicked him.
Wow.
So there's nothing he can do. He just misses out on $250,000 now, and that's something that I think a lot of, like, especially sim racing, now that there's money, like big money now, starting to fall into the kiddies, we need to figure out how we deal with things like this. Or is it just a part of racing? Like, is it just part of sim racing? It's just a disconnect part of it.
That's right. I mean, as you know, with sim racing, there's always disconnection issues because everyone's internet is not always the same, and
No.
you know, so there's always, and I've always said all along since I've started sim racing that I consider the internet as our mechanical failures.
Yeah.
So, so in this case, do you just say, well, that's just like his engine blowing in his qualifying race?
Yeah, it's sad, but that's what happened, and I guess that's something we'll need
That is a
as a
tough one,
community.
wow.
We'll need to figure out. But another thing too, Forza, can you? Oh, they need to up their broadcast game a lot. Like, it was always just the chase cam on the spectator view, and it was not that exciting to watch, if I'm honest. Anyway,
Okay.
that's a different story. The FIA Digital Cup at the FIA Motorsport Games was on. I knew that this was coming, but I'm surprised they didn't promote this event more, the FIA, because there was touring cars, there was drifting, there was GT3, GT4s, all sorts of different racing going on in Italy. And but anyway,
This is real racing, guys,
Yeah.
mixed in with the digital stuff.
yeah, and there was the Digital Cup portion, and Nick McCosey, who's been on the FIA World Final Series plenty of times with GT Sport, actually won his first big Gran Turismo Sport event for Australia too. So
Aussie.
yeah, that happened on the weekend, and the world's fastest gamer 2 winner was James Baldwin. So he announced his win on Twitter during the week, and good on him. So I forget what that wins him, but pretty good deal with McLaren, I think.
I believe that wins him a sim driver role with McLaren, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Which the first question that this raised for me is because he's actually a F1 eSports driver with Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, he drives for
F1.
Veloce as well.
So now I'm wondering, does that mean he has to quit his F1 eSports role with Alpha now that he's a McLaren employee, or I don't know what happens there?
Yeah, it depends, I guess, what is in the contract. And so the world of a sim racer is getting more and more complicated now when money starts exchanging hands. But yeah, good on him. He's season 2 winner, James Baldwin. So.
And I said this to you during the week too, but I mean, like, how many sim drivers do McLaren need? Like, they're building up a stable of them now.
Well, like I said last week, they retire so early, they probably need them, you know?
That's true too.
If they're all going to end up, you know, quitting professional sim racing by 25, then they're going to need a lot of young people to fill the gaps pretty quickly. So maybe it's not such a bad idea that they've got so many people.
Well, they're definitely building up a stable.
But anyway, that will wrap it up tonight. So thanks for listening to the podcast. I didn't think would even get this long. So surprise, surprise, we still managed to do it.
We'll always tell you.
Yeah, we do. Anyway. Thanks for listening. And as always, one last time, don't forget to go like, share and subscribe on Facebook, Lights Out F1, and on all your favourite podcast platforms. And we'd love to hear from you as well. You can leave a comment and we'll get back to you like we did just Sean. And that will about wrap it up though. So as always, my name's Josh Gayen from Demo 1, Race Hard and On The Edge. And thanks for listening. And Aussie.
I am Dr. Aussie from FNL1eSports, and till next time, push it to the limit and keep it on track.
And good night.
Good night.